Alright, so here we start the 8th turn in Britannia, and this is kind of an interesting situation because we kind of get to this status quo. We're not going to have another big victory point turn until turn 10. Turns 8, 9, we see a leader show up, or a potential leader. 10, then we get another angle leader that's potential. On turns 9 and 10, we have the Britannia, where if a player gets sort of a majority of the countries in England, the spaces in England under his countries or powers, he gets a couple extra victory points, which is a desirable thing, of course, but nobody really necessarily wants to help each other with this. So it becomes this big struggle between the Angles and the Saxons for this factor, just to gain those extra couple victory points, because it's hard to get victory points at this point. There are no more Romano-British left. If the Romano-British were here, their cav armies would have turned to normal armies at this point. We got some slight reinforcements coming, but otherwise it's mainly just a try to exert your power and position yourself for that 10th turn for most countries. But, and I meant to talk about this, the first country that goes at this point, which is the Welsh, because the Romano-British are gone, does have a very valuable goal. On turns 8 or 9, if they at one point get the city of, or the territory of York, they get 6 victory points. Now, right now, they're in a pretty good position to cut their way right through there. They get an additional piece. The problem, well, if they go through March, they can put 2 units there, 2 units there, and push forward. It weakens them a little bit. There's no question about that. But it's probably the desirable path. Try to see if you can get it on this first turn. It will make Wales more difficult to hold, and I'm going to pull out a Gwynedd too. Alright, well that was a big value of points. They've pushed their way through, gotten them, killed a couple of Angles, both on the first die roll. The Angles would have retreated with the odds. That's a situation where the Angles, might defend against, but I've never seen it actually happen. I've seen the Angles busy spreading out to get their turn 7 points all the time. Jumping a little bit more into detail on this turn, for whatever reason, I have a lot to say. So, sometimes the game falls into these kind of agreements. And in this case, the Scots and Caledonians were considering leave each other alone. The Scots decided against it mainly because they wanted their raider on the board, and this gives them more territory. But if two players aren't doing terribly well, neither one's all that interested in where the other one is, although both are interested in Skye. But there was some thought of, okay, if we leave each other alone, I can keep my Dalridia, Dunedin, and Skye, which are important to the Scots. I'll give you Moray and, push down and work on holding the lowlands. The agreement didn't come around. Kind of the idea of... The problem with it is the Calridians really want a place to expand into. They have 6 pieces. They kind of like the idea of being able to kill things every now and then, because they're always banging up against their peace limit. So it's very hard for them not to have someone to attack. Now we're hitting... I've finished most of the other powers. The Brigantes have run and hid. The Irish grabbed all the lowlands in Wales that the Welsh abandoned. Now we're at this interesting stage where the Saxons are going to get this huge amount of troops. Now this is the point. The Saxons want to wipe out as many Angles in the south as they can. Establish themselves up. That'll weaken the Angle cause overall and strengthen the Saxons as the people who will win this war. This is the one advantage the Saxons have. And I don't usually see this. Usually what I see is maybe an agreement between the two or something. The Saxons just don't come out as dominant as they should. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take advantage of the fact that the Angles are spread all over the place. Yes, they move later, but I get first strike. And there's a big block of Welsh in the way. So that I think the Saxons may actually do very well here. And the Saxons do indeed. They drive all the Angles out of southern England. The Angles, seeing this, went in to go finish the Brigantes off. They pushed them up to Strathclyde. Strathclyde's where the Brigantes kind of want to be economically. But if red is winning the game, Brigantes are worth hunting down. And here's the thing, you want to be in the safe territory. But with 4 Angles charging into them, that's going to be tough. We push into turn 9. And the Angles' little move cost them the ability to prevent 2 points going to the Saxons. The Saxons have enough pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or enough areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to claim the Bratwalda. They get 2 points for that. And I've recorded that. They're up to 55, closing in on purple. Purple's in a lot of trouble here. They really do not have too many things that produce many points. They have the Norwegians, who are powerful at the end of the game and can produce a lot of points, but they seldomly do, because of their turn position more than anything. And the Dubliners, who can be this, they're this weak little force that can produce ridiculously large amounts of points, ones that you wouldn't expect. So they're kind of the ace in the hole for purple. And of course I've got the Scots still kicking around, which could, because they're going to last through the game, produce a reasonable amount of points, but they don't ever produce much. They're not as valuable, I think, as the Picts making it to the end. I'm not sure. Sometimes the Scots don't make it, though, instead. So after that, after the Bretwald, now we go, we get to the new setups, and this is one of the things I always forget, and I lucked out here, which is that the Angles get the leader Oswiu if they hold Bernicia at the start of their turn. So if nobody takes this from them, and somebody might, they'll get a leader for the turn. Now that's important because next turn they get Offa, another leader, if they hold North Mercia. So they've got this goal. It's kind of a tough goal for them to reach, actually. Often they'll drive the Welsh out to get that. They may work with the Welsh to open that route out, though. I think the Welsh do not want to stay there particularly. All right, on to the play. And here's what a powerful Saxon player can do. Launching himself into Wales, he's on this process of trying to exterminate the Welsh because that will knock green out of the game. He's really afraid of green at 48.5 to his 55. Purple, there's not much he can do about him anyway, but exterminating green is very valuable. Now blue he thinks taken a body blow already, but he does not want this powerful series of leaders coming into play. So he goes up and schwacks Bernicia. Takes that out, takes the Pennines out. Now it's going to be very difficult, in fact impossible, for the Angles to make it down and get their leader just before the victory point turn. They also have sort of a population problem up here. Blue's in a lot of trouble. Not because they're in the lead or anything, but because their potential to grow, the tons of counters they have, rivals the Saxons, and the Saxons want to be the sole owners of England, more or less, at this point in the game. But the Saxons' actions have more or less doomed the Brigantes. Well, they have doomed them. They've been wiped out. We have the Angles positioned along the coast here. It really looks to me like Red has sort of surpassed what I've seen them do in most games here. I've seen them be very powerful once before. They didn't win that time, though. And it may be because they lost things like the Brigantes. If the Saxons are doing powerfully, everybody kind of realizes Red's a danger here. Oswiu is going to go away, and we move to turn 10, which is going to be a victory point turn. And we'll see. Oh, and we're going to get 2 more points for Bratwalda here because there's only 4 votes against, and I got 6 for the Saxons. So there's a problem with where the Saxons were up in the north chasing the Angles. They couldn't get down to where their victory points are. All their victory points are down here. In fact, North Mercia is not even one. They've got a few pieces not in victory point spaces because of it. Well, a couple guys went into Cumbria to wipe out an Angle there. They took the Pennines. They couldn't get anywhere else from there. Most of their big points they've grabbed, but they are going to suffer a little bit from this. There were places like Norfolk and Suffolk they didn't take. Ooh, I didn't get to Wessex. Oops. They could have made it to Wessex if they abandoned Gwynedd, which might not be a bad idea. You'd see a Welsh resurgence up there, but they really don't need to be there. I think that's worth fixing. Nah, I didn't fix the other problem. The hell with it. A mistake's a mistake. Okay, anyway, now the Angles are coming in, and this is normally when they score tremendous points, because they're usually about equal with the Saxons, and then just stomp all over the stuff that they want. If there are any Saxons where they want to be. They want to be up here, but they've been, heavily ethnically cleansed, and that's going to be a problem for them. So as we push into turn 11, what do we see? Well, more errors. I had left the Irish in Powys. That doesn't get them points, but I'm not too terrified about that. That's helping me with the extermination and suppression of green, who I believe is my main foe, is red. So I've probably cost green more points than I could have possibly gotten by attacking. The Angles spread themselves out. Dangerous position to be in. Here's why. Next turn, we start seeing some Danes showing up. Danes are going to be raiding. This is turn 11 here. Well, first of all, we're going to have a Bretwalda again. Looks like it's going to go for the Saxons again, but let's see. We start seeing some Norsemen. That's red people up here, not really conflicting and not really able to intervene too much, I guess. Although they go all over the place. Danes in the north, Danes in the Frisian, and a Saxon leader, major invasion from the Norsemen. Okay, but the Danes are normally facing a situation where they don't have a clear, I know who's ahead. In part because of the point situation in the game. Now, if you'd look at this and said, well, the red is at 71.5 points, purple's next at 62.5, then blue at 62, 57.5. Even in a newbie game, people would be saying red's in the lead. But knowing what I know about the game, red is definitely in the lead. Red never does this well in games that I've played. So there may be some willingness to leave the Angles alone. The problem? Well, let's see what the Danish victory conditions are. Turn 11. They get points for taking areas. So, you want to get your own points too. And the problem is there's easy empty areas and easier to take blue areas. Of course, they're also easy to take red areas. So they may shift a little bit towards hitting red. And that may balance things out a little bit between the Angles and the Saxons, though. We'll see. I'm going to load this one up. Again, only a couple of turns in each video, but keep them shorter.